Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome to the second lecture of this week 3, and we were discussing types of casting processes, and in the last lecture we discussed some common types of the expandable mold casting, and in this lecture we are going to see some types of the permanent mold casting. Now, before starting the permanent mold casting, we will discuss various type of allowances that are given in the pattern. So while designing the pattern, we take into account certain kind of allowance. The first one, the shrinkage or the contraction allowance, and we have solved some numerical problems, and we have calculated some numerical problems for this one. The second one is a draft allowance, then the machining allowance, and the distortion allowance. So shrinkage allowance, as you have discussed before, has a various metal for casting contract after solidification, and each metal has its own contraction coefficient, right? It has its own contraction rate. So since the it is different for various metals, therefore it will also differ from the type of the metal. As we discussed earlier, the shrinkage or the contraction allowance, the various metals used for the casting contract after solidification, and we have calculated this also. So, and the contraction differ from material to material. So we will, while designing the pattern, we will take into account the material properties before taking into account some allowance before designing some allowance for the particular pattern. The second one is a draft allowance. And what is draft? Draft is like if you have a straight, you must have studied in the engineering drawing. So what you will do, you will form a draft. You will cut it like this way, or you will taper it at a certain angle. Instead of making a vertical walls, you will taper it at a certain angle. This is called a draft. So it's a taper which is given to all the vertical walls of the pattern for easy and clean withdrawal from the pattern, from the sand. Easy to clean withdrawal of the pattern from the sand. So if you have a vertical walls, so if we remove the pattern from the sand, there's a chance that it will damage the mold cavity or the sand walls. So we taper the pattern walls at a certain angle so that we can easily remove it. This allowance is expressed in terms of millimeter or some degrees. So the amount of pattern varies with the type of pattern we are using. Either we are using the wood pattern or the metallic pattern. So it varies from material to material of the pattern. Let's suppose if we are using the wood pattern, we will have a greater allowance because wood offers greater friction resistance compared to the metallic pattern. Then we have another type of allowance, that is the machining allowance. Obviously we have discussed different types of the casting process. So there are many kinds of the casting techniques which does not give us the very good dimensional accuracy, and we have studied this as one of the disadvantages of the casting process. So owing to this poor dimensional accuracy in most of the casting processes, we need to take into account the machining allowance. So what we'll do, we leave behind some 1.6 to 12.5 millimeter of extra material as an allowance, so that once the casting is done, we'll perform the machining. For the ferrous metal, we require more machining, so the allowance is kept at the upper boundary of the machining allowance compared to the non-ferrous material. And this depends on the casting, the type of the metal we are using, the size and the shape of the casting we are using. The last one is the distortion allowance, the allowance provided on the pattern used for casting of such design in which contraction is not uniform. So we have such design in which certain areas have higher rate of heat transfer, while the other areas does not have the high rate of heat transfer. So there will be change in the contraction rate in the various areas of the same product. So we need to take into account the distortion allowance. So where we will have the poor rate of heat transfer, or we will have greater distortion there, we need to give extra allowance to those part or those regions of the product compared to the regions which have the better rate of heat transfer and there is less distortion. So now we'll move towards the permanent mold casting. So let's start with it. As we have discussed time and again, the basic difference between the permanent and expandable mold casting, one of the economic disadvantage of the expandable mold casting is that it requires new mold every time when we are casting a product, because we destroy the mold every time. But in the case of the permanent mold casting, we can use the mold multiple times. That's why they are economically cheap, and they are mostly used in the industries for making several products. So some of the main uh, types of the permanent mold casting includes the basic permanent mold casting, die casting, and the centrifugal casting. They are also they can be differentiated with each other by this basic permanent mold casting. It is also known as the gravity die casting, right? And this die casting, it is called as the pressure die casting. These are other names for this. Why is that so? Because in this kind of a permanent mold casting, the metal flows by the effect of gravity, while in the case of this die casting or the pressure die casting, we exert external pressure to squeeze the molten metal into the mold cavity. And as the name suggests, in the third type, that the centrifugal force is utilized to fill the mold with the molten material. So if we start with the basic permanent mold casting or the gravity die casting, in this type of casting, mold consist of two sections that are designed for easy and precise opening and closing, right? If you see this figure, so we have mold, two section of the mold. One is the stationary and other is movable with some mechanism, either piston, cylinder, hydraulic, or the reciprocating motion of piston, right? So there's some mechanism to open and close. So one section of the mold is movable while other is stationary. So they should be designed, the mold should be designed in such a way that the opening and closing should be easy and convenient. In this type of casting mold, the material that are used for the casting are mostly low melting point metals or the alloys. While in the case of the expandable mold casting, especially the sand casting, we discussed that very high melting point materials can also be casted. But in the case of the permanent mold casting, as we know that the molds are made of metals, so the very high melting point materials cannot be casted. So we mostly cast the low melting point materials such as aluminum, copper alloys, and some other magnesium alloys. While if we want to cast steel or the cast iron, we need to make mold made of the refractory material. We need to have the mold of ceramic or some refractory material. Otherwise, mostly the molds are made up of steel or a cast iron to cast the low melting point material. Mold used for casting steel must be refractory material, as we discussed, because of the high pouring temperature. Then one of the features that cores can also be used here, and if we recall what the core was used to make the internal geometry. So core can also be used here, but their shape must be easily removable or mechanically collapsible. They should be designed in such a way that they are easily removable once we have our parts solidified, or they can be mechanically collapsible, right? So we need to we need to take this into consideration while designing the core. Like, let's suppose if we have such a geometry that the removal of core is not possible. So what we do, because of the complex geometry, so what we do, we make the core out of sand so that it can be collapsed. So such kind of permanent mold casting in which core is made up of sand, we call it to be semi-permanent mold casting. A kind of the permanent mold casting in which core is made up of sand, it is termed as a semi-permanent mold casting, right? So some basic steps of the performing this kind of the casting is that we initially preheat these mold sections. We preheat these mold sections. Why is that so? For ease and flow of the molten material, so that when we pour the molten material, it can easily flow into the and fill this mold cavity. Because if it is at a lower temperature, very low temperature, the possibility that metal might start to freeze before filling the mold cavity. And the second thing is that we spray some coatings over the surface of the mold. The purpose of those coating is to increase the heat dissipation, to increase the heat transfer, and second one is so that the mold the material shouldn't stick to the surface of the mold cavity, and once it is solidified it can be easily removed. So the three steps are: we initially preheat the mold and coat it with some coatings. Then cores, if they are required, they are inserted and the mold is closed. Once the mold is closed, we simply close the mold. Once it is closed, we pour the molten material into the mold cavity until it completely fills the mold cavity. So there are certain advantages for this kind of a casting. The first one, we have the good dimensional accuracy and the surface finish. Why is that so? Because we are using metallic molds. Because we are using the metallic molds. Right? So this is the reason. That's why we have the good dimensional control and the surface finish. There is a more rapid solidification caused by the uh, good heat transfer of the metallic molds, and because of the high rate of heat transfer, we have the final grain structure. We discussed in the beginning that if we have the high rate of heat transfer, the grains will not have enough time to grow in size. So that's why they're solidified even when they are smaller in size. So that's why we have the fine grain structure, and because of this fine grain structure, the casting is stronger. And why it is that if the grain structure is fine, the casting will be stronger. We will discuss this in the subject of metallurgy. So if you see some limitations and the types of this permanent mold casting, although there are some advantages, but there are some limitations to this. It is generally limited to a metal of low melting point, as we discussed earlier, because the mold is made up of a metal itself, either the cast iron or the steels. But if we need to cast these material itself, we need to make mold of the refractory material, or you can say ceramics. Right? Simpler part geometries, the geometries that can be casted in this kind of a casting, the permanent mold casting, is somewhat simpler compared to the sand casting or the expandable mold casting. And the last one is there is a high cost of mold, because mold is made of metal, so there is a high cost involved in the price of the material itself, in the machining to get out the desired shape of the mold cavity, and also some expenditure in maintaining that mold. So overall, there is a high cost of mold involved compared to the expandable mold casting. So where do we use this permanent mold casting? Due to high cost mold, this process is mostly suited for the high volume production. So it is mostly used for the mass production in the industries, right? And where it can be automated easily. Some common parts that are made from this permanent mold casting are the automotive pistons, pump bodies, and certain casting for aircraft and the missiles. We will see these in the lectures ahead. Common materials that can be casted are the aluminum, magnesium, copper based alloys, and the cast iron. And obviously, we discussed for the cast iron, we need to have the ceramic mold. Some common types for the basic permanent mold casting or the gravity die casting, you should remember this name as well, because it differentiate, because all of these are die casting, there are dies involved, right? So we need to differentiate between them as a gravity die casting and the pressure die casting. So some common types of this permanent mold casting, or the gravity die casting, are the slush casting, low pressure casting, and vacuum permanent mold casting. So let's start with the first type, that is the slush casting. So what is a slush casting? As the name suggests, there is a formation of slush here in this kind of a casting. Slush casting is a permanent mold process, as you know, which is used for casting hollow products. And how do we make it? Uh, we have an open mold. Let's suppose we have an open mold. We simply pour the molten material into that open mold. We pour that molten material into that open mold. So once it starts to solidify around the mold walls, we start to solidify around the mold wall. Obviously, it will start to grow towards the center, right? After some time, let's suppose I want to make a cup like a plastic cup like this one, or any other cup uh, of any low melting point material. So after some time, you will have a shape like this in the flask. So the thickness of the wall would have increased after some time, right? As soon as we achieve that certain level of thickness which we require, our casting is complete. Let's suppose I required might be 2 millimeter of thickness. So once I achieve this thickness, so the remaining material would be somewhat uh, slush, some liquid solid mixture, liquid that is about to be solidified, some slush here. So we'll simply pour this slush out. You'll simply pour this slush out. So what you will get is a product with a very precise outer boundary like this one, but the inner boundary would be somewhat irregular shaped. Okay, and so because the remaining slush we have throw it out, and whatever we get at the end is like this one, a hollow cup with a very precise outer boundary, good dimension, good surface finish. But the inner one, because we have no control over the inner surface, so the inner surface somewhat irregular or non is not very smooth and does not have a very good dimensional accuracy. So it is used for some low quality products like toys and some decorative pieces. So as it says here, slush casting is mainly suited to lower melting point material like zinc, tin, aluminum alloys, and are commonly slush cast in the manufacturing industry. With this process, you need to have a mechanical means of turning over the mold in order to pour out the molten metal from the cast part. So obviously, once you have the slush here, you have achieved your desired thickness. So you need to have any mechanical means to pour the remaining slush out. When the manufacturing by slush casting, it is difficult to accurately control the metal casting strength and other mechanical properties. Obviously, when we are using the slush casting, we don't have much control over the product. We are just naturally letting it to solidify, and once we think that we have achieved the desired thickness, we will simply pour that out. So some common products are like the toys, the mask children used to wear, even some elders, in some festivals like you must have seen. So they are all slush casted. As I said, the casting's internal geometry cannot be effectively controlled because we don't have any means to control the internal geometry, and the thickness is controlled by the time allowed to solidify before drilling. So how do we control the thickness? We simply wait until we see that we have achieved the desired thickness. The desired thickness of the part has been solidified, so the remaining part is drained out. This is how we control the thickness of the product. So the hollow metal casting manufactured by this process are lighter than the solid parts. Obviously it's a hollow, it's lighter, and it saves material. Good surface finish and accurate exterior geometry are possible with the slush casting manufacturing process. So we do have the good surface finish at the outer surface and good dimensional accuracy, but we do not have good dimensional accuracy at the interior side. So this was the slush casting. Now we'll move on towards the next type of the basic permanent mold casting or the durability die casting, that was the low pressure casting. Now the next type of the permanent mold casting or the gravity die casting is the low pressure casting. In the low pressure casting, the liquid metal is forced into the cavity under the low pressure. So what happens here, we have the mold cavity or the dies that are closed, and they have a refractory tube that is going into the pool of the molten material in the flask or the ladle. That ladle is placed inside an airtight chamber which has inlet for the air. So what we do, initially we apply the air pressure from this inlet. This air pressure is exerted onto the surface of this molten material. So because of this pressure that is exerted on the surface, this liquid metal from deep inside the pool move up this refractory tube into the mold cavity, and once it fill the mold cavity, we are allowed to solidify, and once it's solidified, we simply open the mold and remove the product and get the product. So the advantage for using this kind of technique is that the molten material that is filling the mold cavity is pure compared to the material that is used in other type of casting. Why is that so? Because the molten material that is going into the mold cavity is from deep inside the molten pool. So in this area, this molten material is not exposed to the outer atmosphere. So that's why it has less amount of impurities or the gas porosity, while the material at the top of the molten pool is exposed to the atmosphere, so it might have some defects or the oxides in it. So that's why in this low pressure casting we have somewhat pure form of product. So one of the advantage for this one is we have reduction in the gas porosity and the reduction in the oxidation compared to the product that we achieve in other kind of the casting process, and hence we are able to improve the mechanical properties of our final product. If we go on to see the third type, that is vacuum permanent mold casting. It is similar to the low pressure permanent mold casting. The only difference is that instead of using this air pressure inlet, it doesn't utilize this air pressure inlet, rather there's a passage here where we create a vacuum. So what advantage we get by using the vacuum pressure instead of the positive pressure is that uh, in when you supply the positive pressure onto the molten material, there is a chance that this air will cause gas bubbles or the air bubbles into the molten material, while in the case of the vacuum, this chance will be further reduced. So we will have much more purer material, the purer molten material, in the case of the vacuum permanent mold casting compared to the low pressure permanent mold casting. So we will have the greater strength and lesser defects in our final product. So these were the types of the gravity die casting or the basic permanent mold casting. So the next branch of the permanent mold casting is the pressure die casting. Now, the second type of the permanent mold casting is the die casting, and the other name for this one we discussed was the pressure die casting. And why is that so? Because we are exerting external pressure to force the molten metal into the mold cavity. So the permanent mold casting process in which the molten metal is injected into the mold cavity under the high pressure. What we do, we maintain the pressure during solidification. So we just don't squeeze the molten material into the mold cavity. We also maintain that pressure until the part is solidified and we have achieved the final product, and the mold is open and the part is removed. So that if we lose the pressure in between the solidification, there's a chance that there will be distortion in the material. So second, the mold in this casting operation are called dies. So that's why it's called a die casting. The molds are termed as a dies. We use a very high pressure, that is 7 to 350 megapascals. The pressure might range in different types of the die casting from 7 megapascal to 350 megapascal. And this is what is distinguished from the other permanent mold casting. Because of this high pressure, it is distinguished from the other types. So the die casting machine, the purpose of those die casting machines is to hold the two halves of the mold together and keep them close under the liquid metal's force. So until now we have been studying a flask which has some riser in the screw and the mold cavity, and some cores and all that. But in the case of the die casting, we call it a die casting machine. And the main purpose of that machine is to hold the two halves of the mold together, until the casting is completed, and keep them close while a liquid metal is forced into the cavity. So based on this machine, we can further classify our die casting or the pressure die casting into two types. The first one is called a hot chamber machine or hot chamber die casting. Second one is called a cold chamber die casting. So what is the hot chamber die casting? The primary difference is that in the hot chamber die casting, metal is melted in a container and a piston injects liquid metal into the under high pressure into the die cavity, and you will see what it really means. So metal is heated in a container, and using the piston, we exert the high pressure so that it forces into the mold cavity. It has a very high rate of production, that is 500 parts per hour, and it's not uncommon. So if you see the figure of this one, this is the chamber here, and you place the solid material here, and it is melted in the same chamber. Metal is not melted somewhere else, rather metal is melted in the same chamber. Once we have the liquefied metal, this plunger exerts pressure onto the mold cavity, so that onto the molten material, so that this molten material passes through this gooseneck or the nozzle, generating pressure, and it enters into the mold cavity. And we have the opening closing mechanism of this half of the mold. This half of is fixed, but this half is movable. We have some mechanism here. So we'll see various features of this die casting machine. We have two halves of the mold, and the machine is holding them together. One half is movable, other half is fixed. We have some ejector pins here. The purpose of the ejector pins is that once, let's suppose we have solidified the part here, once it's solidified here, we will open the mold and press those ejector pins, so they will force the part outside, so you can get the product. Then second was a gooseneck, that's a pathway into the mold cavity. We have the nozzle to increase the pressure. We have the plunger that exerts the pressure onto the mold cavity, and we have a chamber where the material is melted also. So this is how the hot chamber die casting is performed. This kind of the casting is performed on the low melting point metals, because of the reason that so that they do not chemically attack the plunger and other components of the die casting machine. So some common metals that are casted using the hot chamber die casting machine is the zinc, tin, lead, and magnesium. And it has very high rate of production, so it is mostly used in industries. So the next type of the die casting, or the pressure die casting, is the cold chamber die type of the pressure die casting, that is a cold chamber die casting. Molten metal is poured into an unheated chamber from external melting. So the difference between the hot chamber die casting and the cold chamber die casting is that in the hot chamber die casting, metal is melted in the same machine. Right, if you see here, hot chamber die casting and cold chamber die casting, metal is melted in the same machine. And here in the cold chamber die casting, metal is melted in separate furnace. So this is the main difference between the hot chamber die casting and the cold chamber die casting. So the piston inject metal under high pressure, that is 14 to 140 megapascals. High production, but not usually as fast as the hot chamber, because in the hot chamber die casting, the metal is melted in the same machine. So that is why there is a less time involved in each cycle. So the rate of production is higher compared to the cold chamber die casting. It consume some time in melting the material somewhere else and pouring using the ladle into the chamber. So if you see the schematic diagram of the cold chamber die casting machine, we have a chamber that is called as a short chamber, and we have an opening here and the ramp. So we melt the material somewhere else, and using the ladle we carry the molten material here and pour it into the short chamber, from where we exert pressure using the ramp, and it squeezes the molten material into the mold cavity. And once it's solidified, we simply open this movable section of the die or the mold, and using the ejector pins we remove the part. So the common materials that are casted in the cold chamber die casting are the aluminum, brass and magnesium alloys. So if you move towards the machine, the molds, the dies that are used in the die casting machine are mostly made of tool steel, moldless steel, some margining steel, tungsten, molybdenum. They are all very hard, and the material is the high strength with good thermal properties. They do have the ejector pins that are required to remove the part, as we have seen in the animation and in the schematic diagram. Lubricant was sprayed into cavities to prevent sticking and to reduce the temperature of the die. There are certain advantages for these pressure die casting. They are economical for the large production quantities, as we have seen. It is automated, so we have the high rate of production compared to the other permanent mold casting or the expandable mold casting. They have good accuracy and surface finish, again due to the dies made up of metals, so that's why we have a good surface finish and a good accuracy. Thin sections are also possible here, and we have seen certain animations here, so we can cast thin section easily. And rapid cooling provides smaller grain good strength. Again, because of this metal mold, we have the high rate of heat transfer, and because of this high rate of heat transfer we have the smaller grain size, which ultimately leads to the good strength of the final product. Some general disadvantages for the pressure die casting is that they are generally limited to the metal with the low melting points, and the part geometry must allow removal from the die. So we cannot cast very complex shapes in the die casting. So that's all for this lecture. Should you have any question, you may reach me at my email ID or the Google Classroom.